Hello and welcome to Church Come Today. My name is Neil Fisher, and we're hoping you enjoy today's show. I'm the Director of Communications for the South Carolina Synod. Joining me is Carrie Graves, the Canon for Communications for the Upper South Carolina Synod Episcopal Diocese. How are you doing today, Carrie?
Doing well, Neil. Glad to be here.
And our guest today is Pastor Keith Anderson. Pastor Keith Anderson is a pastor at Upper Dublin Lutheran Church near Philadelphia, author of The Digital Cathedral, Networked Ministry in a Wireless World, and the co-author with Elizabeth Drescher of Click to Save, the Digital Ministry Bible. He has spoken on the topics of electronics ministry and things all over, and including Day One radio program and E-Formation at the Virginia Theological Seminary. Welcome to our show, Keith.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Let's go ahead and get into some questions here.
Okay.
First, what does digital ministry mean to you?
I guess I would say it means a couple things to me. First of all is using digital tools in my ministry, whether it's for evangelism, reaching out beyond the congregation, or incorporating it into what I do for faith formation or preaching. So integrating it to kind of my everyday kind of traditional ministry roles. But then also there's a part of it for me, the kind of deeper part, the more deeper learning part has been about using the kind of networked relational way that people connect in social media and applying that to my ministry. And in some ways that's really about coming back to what's the best in ministry. I mean, I was taught ministry is all about relationships and building community and forming faith. And now we have all these new tools that, we're able to use to do that, which is a huge benefit if you can find some creative and interesting ways and take the time to do it.
Well, Keith, it's very exciting that you use all of these tools in your ministry and that you have taken this on. How, for congregations, how does being a digitally enabled congregation make a difference in faith formation?
I think social media and technology is just the common language of the day. It's how people connect. It's how they relate. It's how they keep up with friends, the things that are important to them. It's where they get their news and information. And so I think just at least trying to do some digital things is a gesture to say, we know this is how you live your life, where you want to get that information from, how you want to get it, and we're trying to connect with you in that way. So I think it's a benefit in terms of how we relate to our people. I think specifically for faith formation, there's a huge benefit because, we're in a very tech and content saturated time. Like Netflix and Hulu and podcasting, there's all this content that's available to people. And so how can we do some of that on our own, whether it's curating great content from around the web and making it available in worship or in confirmation class, adult forum, or creating some of our own content that we can share with our parishioners so that they can take it on the go even when they can't be in church.
That's great. Have you had any bumps in the road with implementing these digital ministries in your work as a pastor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a lot of trial and error. From the very beginning, I've had things that were surprisingly succeeded, and I had things that I thought were going to be good that just didn't work out. And I think that's part of the ethos of digital ministry is that we're just learning as we go because it's new for all of us, and you have to be willing to try. You have to be willing to put things out there and then see what the reaction could be. Oftentimes you're pleasantly surprised, and if something doesn't work, it often doesn't take any money to put something on. So it's not that you lose a lot in the process, and then you can continue to refine it. But I think at this point over the years, in doing that more and more and more, I just have a much better sense for what's going to work and what's not going to work. So the failures are fewer, and I also, I think, go a little more incrementally. So I build more slowly as opposed to trying to jump in all at once and then be disappointed when it doesn't go exactly as I thought it would.
So go forth in courage no matter what, huh?
Absolutely, yeah.
So Keith, how do you think, or rather, what do you think is important for congregations to build this digital ministry? Are there specific things or steps they can take?
Yeah, I just think you have to start and just pick somewhere to start and something to start with. So a lot of times we just talk and talk and talk about it, and we never get around to doing it. So, if the written word is your thing, use a free blogging platform and see how people respond. Or, you can use email marketing like MailChimp or Constant Contact, and those are still pretty effective. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be professionally produced. But once you start and put something out there and see how people respond, then you're able to tweak what you're doing and then maybe learn for the next time about what connects, whether it's the content or the delivery device, whether it's a podcast or a blog post, or maybe just photography and pictures of your things and just run an interesting Instagram feed, and that's great.
Keith, you're very busy, pastor, speaker, author. How have you, in your daily work schedule and daily life, carved out the time to learn about digital media over the years and then to implement it for yourself? And do you have any tips for other pastors on carving out the time?
Yeah, I've never tried to quantify the amount of time I spend on it, either personally or professionally, nor have I tried to quantify the time I put in ministry, because I think it would be scary. So I don't think about it that way. The way that over the years I've come to think about it is the digital stuff has become integrated into everything that I do in my parish practice. So my preaching preparation is digitally integrated because I'm either reading stuff online or I'm kicking around ideas with people as I'm trying to put together my sermon. Or as I prepare a confirmation class, I'm looking at videos on YouTube that I think might appeal and help make the point in the class. In faith formation areas, I try to do that as well, and I've done some podcasting, and I do a monthly email for Faith at Home for our families. So it all becomes more integrated, and so instead of something that is separate and different from what I do sort of in traditional ministry areas as a pastor, it all becomes tied in together. I think that's how we're living our lives in these technological times. It's just becoming part of a whole in who we are. But that's been a constructive way for me to think about it, as opposed to now I have to do something else. Now I have to set separate time aside. But I will say, however you set time aside, you do need to be intentional about it, about learning about it, about setting aside the time to learn how to use Instagram or learn how to use Facebook. I mean, as a pastor, that is an important contact for me with the people that I relate to. So I manage our church's Instagram account and Facebook page and website, and that's a lot, and not everybody can. It's part of my gift that I can offer, so I do it. Mm-hmm. But it also provides all these touch points for me to people that I would really miss if I weren't doing it.
That's very good advice. It really shows the relational aspect, which is, of course, the most important. Do you have any fun epic fail stories for us of anything you've tried to implement in the congregation that hasn't worked that you can think of?
Epic fails. Yeah, I don't know about epic, but we started at one point in my last church to create a resource for spiritual nurture. That was one of our goals, to help people nurture their spiritual lives, and we thought we'd create this free blog platform and put these materials there, and it was a lot to keep up with, and just wasn't what people wanted. We also experimented with putting our monthly newsletter on a blog format as opposed to a paper format. Eventually we moved to email, but the blog format was completely confusing because things were out of order and people couldn't find what they were looking for. So it wasn't the right platform, so we had to abandon that and then move to more of a weekly email, or incorporate those things more intentionally into the weekly email. So people were like, what's going on? Where's my stuff? How do I find it? And we're like, oh, back up. So it's a good idea. Maybe some of these things are just good ideas whose times haven't come, that the platform just isn't capable of doing what you want for it to be able to do at the moment, but it doesn't mean you can't always go back to it later. One of the things I started that was like an epic success that started off pretty rough was this 2-minute YouTube Bible series that I did. So every week I do 2-minute video reflection on the lectionary readings coming up. And 2 minutes today is way too long. You should do like a minute or so. But I started off and like the quality was so low, and the camera was looking up my nose, and I had friends say, "This is a great idea, but like, dude, you got to work on how you're putting this thing together." And I had some friends help me with that, and it turned into be one of the best things I've ever done in social media space. So you never quite know. Humble beginnings can turn into something great, and something you think is going to be great. You just might have to move on from it, but you learn every time.
It sounds
I think hearing these stories is very helpful and encouraging, and there's an expression that says fail often in order to succeed sooner. So again, we need not be afraid to move forward with these platforms.
Yeah, and fail fast, right? Is kind of one of the themes in Silicon Valley. It's just fail fast and then keep going, keep going. Or Facebook's early motto was move fast and break things. That being able to just do things and ship things and try and then fix it as you go and improve it as you go is kind of a good ethic for digital space.
Yeah, that was one of Google's 10 things Google found to be true. Fail fast and iterate.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that should be ministry too. I think sometimes we're just too afraid, both in digital spaces and in traditional ministry spaces, with all the shifts that are happening in the church and the religious landscape now. People are afraid to try different things, and that is really not good, especially in this. You have to try stuff and iterate, and just see what works and stick with it.
That was the basis of my last question, was going to be, what do you say to the folks who are like, oh, Facebook's not for me, or, do we really need to do all this electronic stuff? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, well, my pastorly response would be, well, everybody's in a different place and you can do different things, and you don't have to be the one in your congregation that does it. If you have people who are part of your congregation who are gifted for this, you can certainly lean on them and ask them to help take the lead on it. But really, the reason I do any and all of this is because I'm a pastor, and my job is to share the gospel with people in as many ways as I possibly can. Like, that's why I'm here, and that's what I'm here to do. And technology gives me the ability to share the gospel with more people than I could have possibly done sitting in my office here, and also nurture the faith of the people in my congregation. So, maybe the technology is not for you, but if you're not doing anything in your church to help make it the case, hiring people, finding people to help you, to try, then you're going to quickly become irrelevant, not only to the people that you might encounter, but to the people in your congregation.
Keith, I know you've done some amazing work over the years with your books and with your speaking engagements. What would be the best way for people to find out more about your ministry and your books?
I guess I would say just go to my website, pastorkeithanderson.net, and I have information about my books, and I have my blog with some of the stuff I've done, specifically lately in confirmation class. I post some of the materials that I've used for confirmation classes so people could reuse it if they want. And then I have links to all the articles I've written for other websites as well, so you can find all that on my website.
Great. It has been a great pleasure speaking with you today, Keith. We really appreciate you coming on the show. Carrie, any final thoughts?
Just want to say thanks for the great advice and encouragement. Just to reiterate that I know we get cold feet and people are in different places, but your point of saying that it has to be done anyway because you're missing an audience if you don't is, I think, a critical one, and I appreciate it.
All right. Well, as we wrap up today, let me tell you that we always look forward to hearing from you. Our website is .com today, COMM in the middle of that, .com. And we have, obviously, Twitter at ChurchCom Today, Facebook at, Facebook.com, ChurchCom Today, and on Periscope, which then leads into our Twitter account at ChurchCom Today as well. Next week, we will have the reschedule of speaking with Justin Dean, communicating when unexpected things happen. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.